Ever paused to consider how a nuclear war could impact your life? Let's ponder for a moment on the unthinkable. A nuclear war between two superpowers, Russia and the United States. To many, it's an unfathomable catastrophe, relegated to the realm of dystopian fiction. But let's bring it to the fore, shall we? Imagine the immediate aftermath, an overwhelming shockwave followed by an intense, all-consuming fireball. Cities, once bustling with life, reduced to rubble within seconds. Infrastructure, the backbone of our modern lives, wiped out. Roads, bridges, power grids, water supply systems, all gone. The world as we know it turned upside down in the blink of an eye. Then comes the loss of life. Millions, if not billions of lives extinguished in an instant, families torn apart, communities shattered. The human toll would be unimaginable, the emotional scars deep and everlasting. And it doesn't end there. The nuclear fallout would linger, a ghostly reminder of the devastation wrought. Our air, water, and soil would be contaminated, wreaking havoc on the environment and making survival a Herculean task. Crops would fail, livestock would perish, and the food chain would be disrupted, leading to widespread famine. The health implications would be dire. Radiation sickness would become a grim reality for survivors, causing nausea, weakness, hair loss, and in severe cases, death. In the long term, cancer rates would skyrocket. And let's not forget the psychological trauma, the fear and despair that would grip the hearts of those left behind. We'd also witness a collapse of the global economy. The destruction of two of the world's leading economies would send shockwaves through global markets, leading to unprecedented financial turmoil. Jobs would be lost, pensions would be wiped out, and the cost of living would skyrocket. A bleak scenario indeed, but what does this mean in numbers? The figures associated with nuclear war are staggering, to say the least. Let's dive into some of these numbers to better understand the enormity of the situation. There are currently around 15,000 nuclear warheads in the world. These are not ordinary bombs, they're weapons of mass destruction. Each one is capable of devastating an entire city, reducing everything in its radius to ashes. To give you a sense of the destructive power of a single warhead, let's consider the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima in 1945, which killed over 140,000 people. Today's warheads are much more powerful, with some having up to 3,000 times the destructive capacity of the Hiroshima bomb. Now imagine the impact of not just one, but thousands of these warheads detonating. The immediate casualties could be in the hundreds of millions. But the devastation doesn't stop there. The long-term effects of a nuclear war could be even more catastrophic. The explosions would trigger nuclear winter, a severe and prolonged global climatic cooling effect. This would lead to a significant drop in temperatures worldwide, resulting in crop failures and mass starvation. The Earth's ozone layer, our shield against the sun's harmful ultraviolet radiation, would also be severely damaged, leading to an increase in skin cancers and cataracts among survivors. Moreover, the radioactive fallout from the explosions would contaminate water sources and agricultural land, leading to further health complications and making large areas of the planet uninhabitable for hundreds of years. In total, a nuclear war could affect billions of people either directly through immediate casualties or indirectly through long-term environmental damage and the resulting food and health crises. The sheer scale of this destruction is difficult to comprehend, but how exactly does this impact you? You might be thinking, I'm just one person, how would a nuclear war really affect me? But consider this. The fallout from a nuclear conflict would reverberate through every facet of your life, touching you and those you care about in profound and unimaginable ways. Imagine for a moment the people you hold dear. Your family, your friends, your colleagues. Now envision the unthinkable. A world where these precious relationships are severed, not by the natural progression of life, but by a cataclysmic event of human creation. The loss would be immeasurable, the grief unbearable, but the impact of a nuclear conflict wouldn't stop at personal loss. Our society as we know it could crumble. The institutions and systems we rely on, from healthcare to education, from law enforcement to waste management, could collapse under the strain of chaos and destruction. The social order that we often take for granted could be replaced by lawlessness and despair. In the aftermath of a nuclear war, basic necessities might become scarce. Picture long queues for rationed food, uncontrollable price hikes, and empty supermarket shelves. The simple act of procuring food could become a daily struggle. And let's not forget the looming specter of radiation. Exposure to nuclear fallout can lead to devastating long-term health effects. We're talking about cancer, birth defects, and a plethora of other conditions that could affect not just you, but generations to come. These are not just abstract concepts or dystopian fantasies, they're real possibilities in the event of a nuclear war. Each of us, no matter our location, our status, or our personal beliefs, would be touched by the fallout. The personal toll of a nuclear war is unimaginable, but is there any way to prevent such a scenario? Is there a way to prevent this nightmare scenario from becoming reality? You might wonder, and the answer is yes. There are measures that can be taken, paths that can be chosen to skirt the brink of nuclear calamity. First and foremost, diplomacy plays a crucial role. It's the art of negotiating, of finding a common ground, of reaching agreements that respect the interests of all parties involved. In the global arena, diplomacy is the tool that can diffuse tensions, resolve conflicts, and avoid escalation. It's the voice of reason whispering in the ears of world leaders, reminding them that war, especially nuclear war, should always be the last resort. Next, there's international cooperation. In a world that's more interconnected than ever, the actions of one nation can have far-reaching effects. That's why countries need to work together, to coordinate their efforts, to share information and resources. International cooperation is the glue that holds the global community together, and it's vital in preventing conflicts from spiraling out of control. Nuclear disarmament is another piece of the puzzle. The less nuclear weapons there are in the world, the lower the risk of them being used. Disarmament is a long and complex process, but it's a goal worth pursuing. It's a step towards a world where disputes are settled through dialogue, not through displays of destructive power. But what can ordinary citizens like you and me do? A lot, actually. We can educate ourselves about the dangers of nuclear war. We can raise awareness, start conversations, spark debates. We can vote for leaders who are committed to peace and disarmament. We can support organizations that work towards these goals. We can make our voices heard, loud and clear in our communities, on social media, in the halls of power. The power to prevent nuclear war lies not just with world leaders, but with each and every one of us. We need to remember that, always. Because the future of our world, the survival of our species, depends on the choices we make today. The prospect of a nuclear war is terrifying, but it's not inevitable. As we conclude this discussion, it's important to remember the key points we've explored. Firstly, we delved into the unthinkable scenario of a nuclear war between two global powerhouses, Russia and the United States. The potential impact of such an event is catastrophic and extends far beyond the borders of these two nations. It's a global crisis that would disrupt the very fabric of our interconnected world. Next, we confronted the staggering statistics that paint a grim picture. Millions of lives lost, cities reduced to rubble, economies collapsed, and the environment severely damaged. These are not mere numbers, but a stark warning of what could happen if we allow tensions to escalate to a point of no return. We then examined the personal toll of a nuclear war. Each one of us would be affected, whether directly or indirectly. The loss of loved ones, the destruction of our homes, the uncertainty of our future, these are realities we would have to face in the aftermath of such a disaster. However, we also discussed the ways in which we can prevent such a scenario. It's not just about political negotiations or disarmament treaties, it's about fostering a culture of peace, understanding, and mutual respect. It's about educating ourselves and others about the dire consequences of nuclear war, and advocating for peaceful resolutions to conflicts. In the end, the choice is ours. The prospect of nuclear war isn't dictated by fate, but by the decisions we make as a global community. It's up to us to ensure the horrors of a nuclear war remain confined to the realms of fiction. We can choose to learn from history, to resist the drumbeats of war, and to work towards a world where disagreements are settled not with weapons of mass destruction, but with diplomacy and dialogue. The choice is ours. Together, we can work towards a world free from the threat of nuclear war.